All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be working on page 11, and we're going to be reviewing and practicing operations with decimals. So, we're actually going to be creating a foldable today. You should get this from the substitute teacher, and you're going to use this to cut around the outside edge. Okay, I've already cut mine. And then you're going to fold each of these flaps to the inside. And they should come together in the middle. Use your fold lines. And it does not have to be perfect. You're going to use your fold lines and fold so the points meet in the center. And now you can see all four operations. So we're going to practice today. We're going to take some notes. This, for the most part, should be a review for you, but it is important to make sure that we can apply this to negative decimals and positive decimals. So we're going to start with addition. Okay, so you're going to come over here and open the flap. The most important thing with addition and subtraction of decimals is you're always going to make sure that you line up the decimal points. Okay, so they should be one on top of the other, and then you're going to fill in, I should put an and here, and fill in zeros as placeholders. Okay? The second thing you're going to do is add as normal. And the third thing you're going to do is bring your decimal point straight down into the answer. Okay, so let's do an example. Let's say we were asked to add 12.3 plus 4.52. So 12 and 3/10 plus 4 and 52 100ths. Okay, so our first step is to line up the decimal points exactly and fill in the zeros as placeholders. So one of the things that I like to do, let me just draw a little line here, is I like to place my decimal points first and then put my numbers on either side. So I know I'm going to have two decimal points on top of each other, and then I'm adding. Okay? So here, I know that the only number to the right is a 3. And then just to the left of the decimal point is a 2 in the ones place, and to the left of that is a 1. So I actually start at the middle, and I go to the right and then to the left. Then down here, I'm going to go to the right. I've got 5, 2. And I'm going to go to the left. The only thing I have to the left is a 4. That just helps me make sure that I'm keeping them exactly lined up. So I place my decimal points first, and then I fill in my place values to the right and to the left. Okay? A good reference for this page to also help you out, you have on page 2 of your notebooks a decimal place value chart, and that might help with knowing things like tenths, hundredths, ones, tens, things like that. I also want to put in zeros as placeholders. This will become really important with subtraction, but it also helps with addition because we know to line up. So anytime we have something without a number, right, on top or bottom, we can put a 0 in. So now it's nice and even. 0 plus 2 is 2. 3 plus 5 is 8. 2 plus 4 is 6, and 1 plus 0 is 1. And then our third step is to bring our decimal point straight down into the problem, or into the solution. Okay, so my answer is 16 and 82 100ths. All right, let's move on to subtraction. When subtracting decimals, we're gonna follow the same 3 steps, except we're gonna subtract. In subtraction, those placeholder zeros are gonna be just as important as they were in addition, if not more important. So we're gonna start by lining up our decimal points. And adding zeros to hold our place. Okay, so where there's not a number, if there's a number on top but not on bottom, we're going to put a 0. If there's a number on bottom but not on top, we're going to put a 0. Those zeros are going to be really, really important with subtraction. Our second step is to subtract normally. Okay, and we're going to regroup when necessary, just like we've learned in the past. And then our third step is to bring down our decimal point into our solution. So we're going to bring the decimal point straight down. All right, let's give an example of what that's going to look like. Okay, so let's say we're subtracting 12 and 6/10 minus 3 and 42 hundredths. Okay, so again, I'm going to put my decimal points first, one on top of the other. And my first number, I see I just have one digit to the right, 1 in the 10ths place. And then I have a 2 in the ones place and a 1 in the tens place. And then I'm going to subtract 3 and 42 hundredths. I've already got my decimal point there. I've got a 4 and a 2. And then a 3 to the left. Okay, this is where those placeholder zeros are really, really important because we cannot just take this 2 down. We have to put a 0 in the hundredths place. And then 1 here in the tens place. So anytime they're uneven, we're going to even them out with zeros. Now we're subtracting 2 from 0, which we cannot do, so we're going to have to borrow from our 6. 10 minus 2 is 8. 5 minus 4 is 1. 2 minus 3 I can't do, so again I'm going to borrow. 12 minus 3 is 9. 0 minus 0 is 0. Okay, so see how that completely changed our answer over here because we have to put in that placeholder 0. This is 60 cents, not 6 cents. Okay, our decimal point comes straight down in between our 9 and our 1. And our solution is 9 and 18 100ths. All right, next one is multiplication. All right, with multiplication, the nice thing is we don't have to worry about lining up our decimals. But the very first thing that I always do when I'm solving a multiplication problem with decimals is I actually estimate the solution or the answer before I even start. and I'll tell you why that's important later. So I'm going to start by estimating my answer or my solution. Then I'm going to multiply normally. And then I'm going to place my decimal. And that's where step number 1 comes into play. It helps me place my decimal point in the appropriate location. Okay? So, we're going to solve the problem. 39 4/10 times 6, and let's do 5/10. Okay? So the first thing I want to do is estimate my answer. So I am going to remember the decimals are part of a whole. So I'm just going to look at my whole numbers here. I've got 39 times 6. These numbers are obviously going to change my exact solution, but they're not going to change enough that my answer is going to be totally different without them. Okay? So 39 times 6. I'm going to round that 39 to a 40 because 40 is easy to multiply with. And I know that 40 times 6, 4 times 6 is 24, and add a 0, so 240. So my estimated answer should be somewhere around 240. Okay? So I just ignored the decimals, ignored everything after the decimal point, and then I estimated by rounding just one of my numbers to something easy. Okay, 240. All right, now I'm going to multiply. 4 times 5 is 0. At this point, I can ignore these decimal points. So 4 times 5, is 20. I bring down my 0 and carry my 2. 9 times 5 is 45, 46, 47. And then 3 times 5 is 15, and I add the 4 to get 19. Remember, every time we change a level, we put a placeholder 0. 4 times 6 is 24. Put down my 4, carry my 2. 9 times 6 is 54, 55, 56. And then 3 times 6 is 18. Plus 5 is 23. Okay? Then I add 0 plus 0 is 0. 7 plus 4 is 28. 9 plus 6 is 15, plus 2 more is 17. 3 plus 1 is 5. And 2 plus nothing is 2. So I have 25780, and I need to place my decimal point. Okay? My estimated answer is somewhere around 240. So I want us to think for a second about the different places we could put our decimal point. If we put our decimal point right here between the 8 and the 0, our answer is 2,578. That is way greater than 240. If I put my decimal point here, my answer is 25 and 78/100. That is much less than 240. Same if I were to put it here, 2.578. That is significantly less than 240. So the only logical place for my decimal point to go based on my estimated answer is right here, 257 and 8/10. Okay, so that's how I like to place my decimal point. Now, some of you may have learned a trick in the past that still works, and it's totally fine if you can remember it. And that is, I count how many places I have after the decimal in my problem. So I've got 1, 2 places here, and then I move my decimal point 2 places in because I have 2 places after the decimal. That totally still works, but I think the estimation method helps us really make sure that our answers make sense. All right, last operation.